Hello and welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad, joined by Matt and Chad as always. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
It's doing well.
Okay.
So we've been blessed the last 2 weeks with some delicious pro wrestling drama to talk about.
And some
What?
tasty tea spilled, right?
Yeah. So this week's more on the LOL TNA is back in full force. So if you don't know, it's been kind of a thing this year. They got Mike Santana kind of hot. And earlier this year at Slammiversary, he was in his hometown and they chose to not have him win the title. And they kind of got forgiven for that. And then he won at Bound for Glory in a match that people were walking out of because they put it after the Hardys and Dudley. So they kind of screwed his win there to begin with. And then they decided, after getting a nice looking crowd on TV and something that was kind of well received, that they were just not going to do anything for a month. They were just going to take a month off and squander all that momentum. So then they came back this past week, and they had a pay-per-view too, which is real weird that you would come back for a show and then another pay-per-view. But so they come back, and right off the bat, they job Mike Santana because they're so original. They have their own Money in the Bank. So he gets beat up in a match he was supposed to have with Ryan Nemeth, which frankly would have been more interesting than what they did, but whatever. And he gets beat up by a bunch of NXT jobbers, and then Kazarian comes out and cashes in whatever their version of the Money in the Bank is, and then he wins the title, and what is just an awful ending because basically what it is. Yeah, well, it's worse than that because if you go to it, because I don't remember what Santana's finisher is. It's some kind of like clothesline or something, but he goes to do it, and then because he's injured, he just grabs his arm, and then Kazarian rolls him up.
Stops dead in the middle of it, yeah.
Which I don't understand. What I don't understand. So if I would have been agenting that, I would be like, no, that actually sucks. So here's what we're gonna do: is you have Santana fire up, and he knocks Kazarian over the top rope, or Kazarian bails over the top rope, and then Santana goes for him. Kazarian grabs his arm, does the whole, well, I'm just going to dive off the apron and, smash your arm into the ring ropes. And then he does like a sunset flip and pins him that way. Because at least that is something.
I might have used like a crucifix roll up or something, or a magistral, because then the arm plays into it. But it just looked so staggeringly awkward. It's just Santana winds up like he's going to do something, he just stops and goes, oh, and like bends all the way forward so that Kazarian can just scrabble up to him and do a roll up. And I'm like, are you guys proud of this?
And
like, this looked awful.
And it's a terrible reaction from the crowd because the crowd just kind of goes, oh, and then it's just quiet. I did see a great tweet. I don't remember who did it, though. They were like, congratulations, Kazarian. You have now lived long enough to be what the problem in TNA was like 10 years ago. But it's just...
That's rough.
But it just stops... just stopped them dead in their tracks. I think a lot of their hype this year was astroturfed from WWE bots and stuff. But I will say they were kind of getting some positive momentum going for themselves. I don't think the NXT thing had totally sunk them. I don't think it was great, but didn't totally sink them. But I think this is like there's a lot of people, I think, more familiar with the history of TNA that are just like, yep, guys, that's exactly what they do. TNA doing TNA things.
TNA gonna TNA.
Yeah.
The NXT, the WWE partnership, it is a joke because they've cucked out TNA at every step. We even talked about it on the show, like it when they did when they were doing the TNA teams and the men and women's TNA teams
Yeah,
versus
it's the
the NXT
invasion
team.
again.
It's like they were doing an invasion angle. It's one of the shittier invasion angles I've ever seen. But they had an NXT woman holding the women's TNA title, and TNA's like, oh, we're gonna pick her for our TNA team. It's like Brian Alvarez
Well, and then
went
the TNA
all over that,
champion was
and he
on.
should have.
The TNA
Yeah.
champion was on the NXT team.
Yes. Yeah. It's insane. Like, and I don't think that it's good. It's just more examples and more proof that TNA at this point is basically just a WWE shell. It's a developmental brand
Well,
that
that's
somehow is it's below NXT, but probably a step above Evolve, which Evolve is like
that's also
the
straight
lowest
out
of the
of
low.
that's also straight out of like a WWE playbook finish too, with the Santana thing.
Oh yeah.
I
But it's a mess. Like Santana didn't even have one title defense.
No.
Like
yeah.
none.
They screwed up
after
doing it
being
in his
cold, after not even having shows for a month.
Yeah.
It's not even like he was out there and he's cutting promos, or they even have him like in tag matches or something. And this is just his first singles defense, and he loses. See, worse than that, it's like he wins a title, nothing for a month, comes back, loses immediately.
Yeah.
It's like, what a joke.
Because
what a joke.
That month off is really, I don't know why they did that. That's really damaging. And we know from Ring of Honor when they were with Sinclair how damaging being that far behind on your TV is, because I know Shad didn't watch it. I know Matt knows what I'm talking about though. It's like they would have a pay-per-view and something would happen, Shad.
Yeah.
And you'd have to wait 4 to 6 weeks for the TV to catch up, for the pay-per-view to be like reflected on the TV. And it just killed them dead.
That's not quite as bad as Shimmer, where it's like, let's have a show, and then it's like, let's wait 36 months before the DVD of the show comes out.
Oh no, you're being real generous there, because there was a point, I think, when Shimmer 100 came out. I kind of really enjoyed it. I think it was during a Mania weekend. Might not have been 100. It was around 100. But anyway, I was like, oh, I kind of like that. I want to go get some DVDs. The DVDs were, they were 25 shows behind. Like, they were 3 years behind, and it was only getting worse. Like, it was so bad. Shayna Baszler was the NXT Women's Champion, and they hadn't even released any Shimmer shows with her run on it yet. And they're a company that only does like 6 shows a year, or well, did.
The other thing that really kills me about the Santana thing is that they screwed up his initial win too, because he should have. They had a show where they were in his hometown.
Yeah,
everything was all primed up. Yeah, and they didn't do it then, and then they went back and did it their next big show. But you've already let so much air out of the balloon at that point that it's not as big as it could have been. And then you do it, and it's like, okay, cool. And then you do this.
That's like a trope of wrestling, I think. If you were to ask me like tropes of wrestling, I'd be like, always waiting one title defense too many to put it on the champion, like always fucking that up. Like going back, I could probably go watch some show, like go back to like the 50s and find some show where like some guy should have beat Luthez for the title and they screwed it up or something. Like, I think that is just something that I would actually say it's a rarity that wrestling gets that right. I actually think I actually think Vince McMahon was really good at that for like 20 years, and that's why I would say, I think that's an underrated reason why WWE won everything, is because Vince didn't do those things.
Oh, but he totally did those things. He totally waited too long to do that sort of stuff repeatedly.
But later, not in the 80s and like 90s though. Like, he didn't wait too long on Austin. He didn't wait too long.
Oh,
on Brett.
you mean after he was an effective monopoly in North America?
I'm saying when he actually had competition, he didn't make that mistake as much.
Yeah. So it was a being striking whenever it's hot. If you go out going out there and when the crowd's really into it, if you call the audible and be like, "Hey, do it now," then do that. But I don't
There,
know, dude. It's
there's times like I would say like you saw it this year in AEW with Adam Page. Like
yeah,
they put themselves in a situation where he had to win the belt, or it would have just ruined him.
it
And a
would have
lot of
died. But the thing is that what AEW has done rather consistently is that they build to the emotional climax and they basically tell you that they're going to. They tell you that this event here, you can be pretty well sure that this is what's going to happen. And so people
They
tune in
got
to see that because they want to see it, and then they get what they were hoping to see.
they got back into that. Like they started that, and that's partly why I think there was a lot of goodwill with AEW. They did that, and then they kind of derailed a little bit from that. Um, Coincidentally, when a certain person who was no longer there was, the top dog there for a while, like that's when they kind of, went sideways from that. But and then they got into a problem. I like Tony Khan. Uh, I think he's overall a good booker, but one of his a strength like is what you said. Like they know that they'll build towards this big emotional climax, and then they'll hit it. And they have had some good success about picking the right spot for that,
I
like
think their
doing it when it needs
problem
to be done.
I think their problem from Punk winning the first title up until I'll say Page, honestly. It was Joe kind of rectified some. They had a real issue with they couldn't build properly to get people to they couldn't build properly to create a climax that interested people until Adam Page. Like they had about a 3-year gap where they couldn't do it after Punk
A little
because
bit,
Okay,
a little
I'm
bit.
I'm pushing back. I'm pushing back here a little bit because it was big for Swerve. The problem they had with Swerve was keeping the momentum going after he won. And
yeah, but I think the problem
doing
with Swerve was the rest of the promotion wasn't good enough to make it impactful. Like what was going on around him wasn't good enough. Like they were building back up, and I think that helped them. I think that got them out of their cold streak. But I think that it was. I think the problem was they didn't get enough people on the train for that. I mean, I think it can be good, but you can also not get enough people on the.
I I I get what you're saying, but I kind of chalk up Swerve's win much like you had the belt on Joe. Like Swerve was kind of the continuation of like we're riding the ship,
Yeah,
and it's
that's what.
more in
Yeah,
line with that. And I think you're right though. Like they're at the kind of just under the main event was still being built up, and it needed to get to a certain level. And now we're at a point where you have Swerve and guys like Osprey who aren't. They're on the shelf. Hopefully Swerve will be back sooner rather than later. But they're back. Now they're at the point where it's like they have multiple people that they can kind of slot in that spot. They're in a much better position. But yeah, you're right. Like they were kind of building up. But what I was gonna say is like AEW does have the success about building up to the emotional climax and hitting the right spot. But the thing that Tony Khan, his weakness is that, and people say weird things. So they'll be like, "Oh, Tony Khan's on the spectrum." It's like I don't know that, but I will say like he does get very obsessed sometimes with it's like I want the story to go this way, and he tries to pigeonhole it or force it to go that way, which that's fine if all things work great. But he's had some major injuries that have happened to people, and it's clear it's like you wanted this to go a certain way, and somebody got injured,
and you can't
and so
pivot.
you can't do it that way. So you kind of just let things like kind of stumble along for
Eh,
like 2, 3
Adam
months,
Cole has been
and
Adam Cole with MJF was a big example where he
that
sort of
was the biggest example in my opinion because it's clear that if the conclusion to the Rochachas thing was obvious to me that it was going to, like, Adam Cole was going to turn on him and probably win the title. He would probably would be the one to the title,
Yeah.
and he probably would have
Yeah.
seen an Adam Cole heel run. I don't know, MJF chasing as a face. I don't know. Which, by the way,
which I'm glad that
tangent.
didn't happen. That would have been terrible. Like Joe, them having to emergency put it
Joe
on
was the
Joe
right
righted the ship for them.
Joe was the right call. Yeah.
Because
And I think it also Joe happened. It wasn't just like they're writing.
Well, because the thing is, if Cole won it, it would have still been him versus MJF, and it would have just been the continuation of the nonsense with the belt. Because Cole wouldn't have serious it up. You needed Joe kind of stabilize things, but he brought, like, I think where Joe was good for riding the ship is Joe was deliberately like not WWE about it, and I think that's what their fans needed. They had to be like, oh, okay, this is more what we want.
Joe, that's a whole side discussion how great Joe has been in AEW, and not just the quality of his work, but just being the selfless veteran that it's like, what do you need me to do? Oh, you need me to be in the main event. Oh, you need me to hold the title for like 2-3 months. Oh, you want me to drop it? No problem, boss. And now here it is,
Joe
like
knows.
he's main eventing like a couple pay-per-views for AEW. It's like, oh, you want me to challenge, be slotted in the main event spot, challenge for pay-per-view, and then move on, no problem. Like he's total professional.
I liked when he my favorite thing about him as champ is when they were doing the Page and Swerve thing. And then they were like, well, we can't really figure out who a number one contender is because they can't have a clean finish. So we're just going to do a 3-way. And Joe's like, why are you punishing me for them being assholes?
Yeah. Well, and also just now this mini feud with Adam Page. I love that it set it up as simple. Again, wrestling can be so great when it's just so simple. It's like Adam Page just like puts the belt like lazily on his chest, and he's like, you disrespected me. He didn't hand me the title. He just like basically threw it at me. But anyway,
you know what I like about that angle though, is I like that the ops turned with Joe because like, no, that's our bro. Like if he has a problem with you, we have a problem with you. Like
yeah,
I
ride
like
or die,
that.
I guess.
But,
I guess we're heels now.
And I do want to say Triple H has the exact same flaw. Like for as much as people try to differentiate, I think Tony Khan is a much better booker than Triple H. But a lot of the things people complain about Tony Khan, like Triple H has the exact same issues, and not being able to deviate from plans, like, is something that Triple H also struggles with. And I mean, it is a. I think, I think that's a hard one to. It's a hard flaw not to have, especially when you put like effort into stuff.
You have a goal, you have something you want to accomplish, and in doing so, to have that be thrown up in the air means that all the work you've done into it and all the structuring around it's thrown up too. And you don't want that to go to waste. You don't want to miss out on what you were trying to do. Like, I get it, but you've got to be able to pivot. And Tony was pretty bad about it.
He still
we'll
is.
just call it what it is. He's better than he was.
Well, he hasn't had a
than he
chance.
was.
He hasn't had a chance to fall into that trap again, I would say.
Well,
I will say he is a little bit better, or maybe he's a little.
I think he's got some more hands helping him now.
Yeah, he still. I'm not saying he's cured himself of the flaw, but I think he's a little better because I personally feel maybe the goal all along was to have Mox lose to Adam Page, and that was the big emotional thing. And I hope that's the case, and that obviously they made the right call. But it sure did seem, whether they're going to put the title on him or not, it sure did seem that the earlier part of this year that they were kind of building towards Mox versus Darby in some fashion. And then Darby was taken out because in real life, of course, he was scaling Mount Everest. And things kind of petered on aimlessly, where you have like Mox defending on the main event of a pay-per-view against Edge. And I like Adam Copeland. I think when he first started with AEW, he did a lot of good work. He got injured very badly against Malachi Black, and then he hasn't really been the same since. I'm not hating on him. The guy's like in his 50s now. I actually don't think the work he's even doing now is bad, but it's like you don't need like a 50-something-year-old Adam Copeland main eventing against Mox.
And you don't need age.
I think kind of got aimless because it seemed like they were going to do Mox versus Darby, and not necessarily like, oh, Darby's gonna win the title, but like they were gonna at least have that part of the story in there before Adam Page like takes over. But I think that maybe Tony learned a little bit of a lesson or got more patient, because it's like they took the title off Mox, and then after the fact you had the Mox versus Darby storyline, and you actually did some interesting things with like the I Quit match, things like that. Like he still was able to make it actually kind of compelling story.
I think there might have been an intervention around the time they had that 10-man tag with the Learning Tree and
Oh yeah.
the Death Riders against like Copeland and like a bunch of other old guys, because I don't know if someone on the booking committee or like some guys just said, hey, you know, you're way in left field, or the fact that like even people like us were just outright shitting on that match and being like, what the fuck is this?
I think
There was talk. I'm sorry, Matt, I cut you
no.
off.
Go ahead.
There
No.
was
Go ahead.
talk right around that time that something had happened and Tony Khan had taken some stuff off his plate to focus more on AEW stuff. I don't know what it would be, but the idea that he was just like, okay, no, I have too much going on right now. This has to wait because this is the, only I can be doing this thing. I can hand this up. And if I remember the chatter correctly, it was around that time that things started getting better. Look, I used to like Copeland a lot more than I do now. I think his entrance music is still my all-time favorite wrestling entrance music. But man, that feud with Mox made me just dread him coming on my TV. I did not want to see it. I hated the idea that he
Their
might take the
matches
belt
were
off Mox.
they like, I will give them credit when they wanted to like redeem themselves. The second match was better, but like I said, you should not unironically be having Age in a cage again.
What are you saying, Matt?
I still like Adam Copeland. I think he gets somewhat unfairly maligned because I think he has like tried hard. When he first came to AEW, I thought he tried really hard and was having good stuff with people. Got injured, and since he came back, he's lost a step. He's in his 50s. I still like give him some credit. I think he tries hard, but I think because he's lost a step and because he isn't what he used to be and he's older, he's kind of fallen into like what he knows, which unfortunately kind of leans way too much on like the WWE sports entertainment presentation
he
and
likes
performance.
He's fallen too heavily into like, and I don't know why as an old worker why he would. He's kind of, his crutch has really been falling into like those late 90s, early aughts like garbage matches they're famous for. Is kind of what his default seems to be.
Somebody killed me because they pointed out that it was every time that Copeland comes out, he does his entrance the exact same way. Whether he's coming out for a match or he's supposed to be doing a run-in, he stops and like looks around and runs to one side and runs to the other side and stops and does the horns and has the pyro go off. And it's like, dude, if you're supposed to be doing a run-in, what the hell are you doing, right?
I remember when
I cannot unsee that now.
Remember when Jeff debuted and he was doing a run in to save everyone, and he was doing, yeah.
It's like, come on, Jeff. Hey, Matt Hardy was getting like the piss beat out of him.
And someone's like,
help your brother.
Jeff, go! And he's like, what?
I have a real.
Right. He's like,
I have a real
dancing in the crowd. It's like, come on.
I have a real. That is a pet peeve of mine with modern wrestling, and I fucking hate. Like literally, it drives me up the wall when you're doing the big old like brawl and the faces or heels running in to try and get involved, and every fucking time they have to do their entrance with the music and stuff, like just have them fucking run in. I know you want the pop and all that stuff, but it doesn't make sense. Like you're not gonna the music guy's not gonna see you run by and hit your music in time. Like just run in. Like fans will know
even if your music hits and you're sprinting down to the ring, I'm okay with that too.
No, I don't like the music. I don't like the music.
Well, here's why. Because it is a marker to the crowd who may not be able to tell who it is. The guy comes sprinting out the back and you hear the, I don't know, the guitar strings for Darby's entrance, or you hear something like that, and maybe you can't tell who it is that was running in until they get in and start throwing. But if you've got the music with it, now you're primed and you know who it is.
Yeah, but
Like logistically, I get where you're coming from,
it wasn't a
but
problem
from a
during.
certain
It wasn't a problem
performance
during.
aspect,
It wasn't a problem during the NWO when people would run in and stuff. There was never music for any of those people.
they ran in a lot.
Yeah, but I'm saying like that no one had problems like popping for whoever came in or whatever.
I'm just okay.
Like
Then let me put it this way:
like
I am
Danielson,
fine either way.
like Danielson coming in during the Page Moxley match is a good example where that would have ruined the moment.
Yeah, but that wasn't a run-in. That was him sneaking in under a mask. That was a little different.
I mean, sometimes I think it's fine, like depending on how you're doing it, but I just hate when it's the middle of a brawl. It's not like even the heels have won and like it's Austin coming in because or someone making their return or whatever. It just drives me nuts. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well,
and I also hate that AEW has been smart enough not to do this finish, but I hate the. I don't think WWE's. I think Triple H has been smart enough not to do this in a while, but I could be wrong. The old WWE special of the person they're feuding with music plays and they don't come out and they just stand there staring like an idiot and get rolled up and beat.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that.
That was always the worst.
Because you turn and you look, and if they're not there, go back to what you were doing. Finish what you were doing.
Yeah.
If the guy's not showing up, don't take that long.
I think the other Tony Khanism I don't like, and he's better about this, but I think that's also because people are helping him because the focus is a lot better now. But he did this with 10 in the mask, like when he used to like meander or forget about angles, and they'd kind of come and go, and then he would finally do the payoff to like 10's mask, and it was like months after you gave a shit because he just didn't stick to the plot on it. Like that used to be one that he did a lot.
for like lower card stories, not paying them off. Yeah.
Or taking too long to pay them off.
Oh yeah. Yes, but I can understand why, because like that's not really the money angle. I've only got so much TV time.
But I think the problem is that erodes your immersion, and when you start failing people on the little angles, they start liking the product less, and then when you make more mid-sized to bigger mistakes, they're less forgiving. Like 10 in his mask is a great example because there was like a good month where they were building up. It was like costing him matches, and he didn't want to get rid of his mask because Brody Lee gave it to him, and then nothing for like 3 months, and then he finally like takes the mask off, and you're like, oh, you went back to this angle from like February and it's June, like yawn. And that's a sticking point because I was interested in that, and then they kind of let me down. And then when like some bigger mistakes happened, you'd already kind of bit me on a lower angle.
I'm trying
that I
to think if I remember anything from that time period going on, because there was a stretch we didn't see Vance at all.
That was when they were doing that's when they were really heavily on the crutch of like surprise debuts, so I think he just got lost in the mix of like all those people coming in. I also
think he got hurt somewhere in there.
Maybe.
I can't swear to it, but I honestly think that Preston Vance had an injury run somewhere in there, and I don't remember when. Like it happened. I just, in my brain, it's not stuck to a particular time period.
Yeah. So anyway, this is kind of, I guess, it's been kind of a talking point off and on. There is a segment of like, I would say the wrestling internet crowd that don't want to engage with this idea because for them to talk about this, they have to admit that WWE is also dropping off. So they don't want to talk about wrestling going cold. Minus CMLL, which no one wants to talk about because they're outdrawing WWE right now.
Yeah, if anyone said nobody's drawing, it's like, dude, if by nobody you mean nobody in America,
I mean, I think
sure, we could have that discussion.
I think AEW
But
is doing fine for what they're doing. They're just running smaller venues, but I think they're doing fine.
yeah,
And I will even say to WWE, because people are like, "Oh my God, why did their attendance drop so quick?" And it's what I've been talking about since the spring on the show. Is like inertia carries you for a really long time, and then you drop like a rock. Like there are plenty of promotions you've seen, like WCW in '99, and I think like World Class in '85. Like you can go from a month where like they're still crowds and they're still hot, and they do a big pay per view, to the next month where like it's dead, like no one cares.
yeah,
Like it happens
It's-
fast.
yeah. The biggest thing that I see, right now is that you're getting drop offs because, frankly, nothing significant has happened for a long time. All the feuds have been dragging on. Nothing has changed. The one that changed was Seth Punk, and why did that change? Is because Seth did something stupid and hurt himself. If that didn't happen, it would probably still be dragging on.
Yeah.
Like the same thing. And there's been so many cases of the same thing dragging on for so long that it's like, why would I go to the arena for this? Why would I get, pay their incredibly higher ticket prices now to go to the arena for this when I can watch it from home?
And like I think like
And
the Cena tournament is an interesting microcosm of this, for their surprises so far have been Matt Cardona and Nick Nemeth.
Dolph, yeah.
Yeah.
Dolph Ziggler.
And it's like, well,
Yeah.
one, like Dolph has been gone for 2 years, so it's not even like people had a chance to miss him. And it's like, I mean, like, I guess Zack Ryder would be cool if you're a WWE fan because you haven't seen him all over the indies for the last couple of years. But it's like, I don't know, he lost and he's gone. Okay. Like, woohoo. But it's and they kind of did it with AJ Lee, so they're kind of doing. He's kind of doing the AEW from a couple years thing where they're trying to use like debuts to paper over how bad things are.
Well, like AJ Lee apparently is going to be in the women's War Games match.
Why?
She's going to get hurt.
Because they needed someone, and they're like, we might as well use this person that we have.
But like,
contract.
I'm not trying to hate here, but like, so she's rusty. Why are you putting her in a match where even if you're on your game, like your chances of getting injured are exponentially higher than a normal match because she's going to get hurt?
No. This is a perfect example, and I've talked about this before. I've complained about this before in the show, and I'll differentiate the two. So AEW just had Blood and Guts, which is War Games.
Yeah,
they legally are not able to call it War Games because War Games as a concept is owned by WWE or Cody Rhodes, which is it's the same thing, really.
Yeah.
Well, I think they were calling it Blood and
Guts
when Cody was still there, so I think WWE got it with the WCW sale because Cody has like
probably.
What does Cody have the rights to? He might have oh shit, he has a couple.
Like Beach Blast or something like that. Like,
yeah, he has a couple.
Brawl.
Because I think AEW
he has the rights to some of the names. Yeah,
because I think AEW used one of them at one point, but I don't know which ones he has.
I don't have a good answer. I know he has some, and I swear I thought Fall Brawl was one.
I thought he might have had a Great American Bash, but
no, if WWE had that one, they let it lapse because they were running the Great American Bash, or then they shortened it because Vince had to shorten it to just the Bash in the aughts. So I would say that I would not think that would be one of them.
Maybe he wouldn't have Starrcade, I don't think. Maybe yes, Starcade.
No, I think that they were running. No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Which is a shame.
but
Anyway, AEW just had Blood and Guts, but they've been smart in that they've kind of let Blood and Guts happen. I'll say organically. I mean, kind of you can see where things are going with a feud that it's like, oh, I think they're going to build towards Blood and Guts, but it's not like it's a set time every year. Like they did Blood and Guts now in November, and the one before that I think was last year, but I think it was like whatever the summer or
June.
something. It's not done at a specific. It's not like, oh, it's this fall pay per view. It's time for Blood and Guts to happen.
This gimmick, yeah.
And that is the thing that back in the day, like it was a problem with WCW when they did it. It's like, it's the October November pay per view. Got to have War Games,
yeah,
or whatever they had. I think they had it at Fall Brawl.
it was
which is, I think
September.
it was September. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, got to do it here, and it's like you don't like having it, making sure every year it's this. It's like then you wind up shoehorning people into the match versus it happening, organically. And obviously this is wrestling, so everything's booked. Nothing's organic per se, but it is when you allow something to happen. It's like you build towards it, you have feuds, and it's like, oh, I guess we got to settle these feuds with Blood and Guts, and you don't do it specifically 12 months from each other. It's like maybe it's like 13 months, or you probably don't want to do more than a year. So it'd have to be at least 12 months or longer, but it's usually like a good stretch of time. So ideally, we won't see another Blood and Guts in AEW until sometime in 2026, I guess. But late, like I wouldn't do it before the summer, But this, it's like, oh, it's Survivor Series. Got to have those War Games matches. And it's like it's turned what the Royal Rumble has turned into. It's like, well, gotta have the women's Rumble, gotta have the men's Rumble. It's like, gotta have the women's War Games matches. Like you don't. And now you're like, oh, AJ Lee's gonna be in it. It's like, why?
Well,
like she had the match she had that tag match with Punk against Seth and Becky. And did she like disappear for like the last like 3-4 months?
I think people were complaining like, why did she just disappear? I do think Blood and Guts. I didn't like that they had two of them on the last show, but that's like a minor complaint. Unless they do that every time going forward, they have a men's and a women's, I'm going to start bitching about it. But like one time, they've only done it one time, so I will forgive them for the one time. But like, I think the problem is when you do it like as an annual event. Now, this is why Survivor Series was better for that, because it was gimmicky. But it's just like, okay, well, you have to figure out this convoluted way to get these people in, and then you're picking people that don't necessarily belong in there. And I would argue, especially with the women's Rumble, it's never been good, and it's devalued the Rumble because now you have two of them. Wow, and the men's Rumble hasn't been good since Jericho left, so there's that too.
Yeah.
They haven't had a good Rumble in almost a decade, I don't think.
Going back to AEW real quick, the unfortunate thing is that it was just going to, when it was initially announced, it was just going to be the women's Blood and Guts. But despite the fact that people were like fans were angling for that for months, like when they actually put that on that, it wasn't selling. Like people weren't buying tickets. So
yeah, because
in the last 2-3 weeks before the show, all of a sudden Tony Khan's like, no, and we're also having a men's Blood and Guts, and it's like, then a bunch of tickets sold because see that.
Well, because there's this massive disconnect with online and reality when it comes to women's wrestling in the United States, and it just does not draw.
It feels I feel like they're using the Blood and Guts. We don't know yet because we haven't seen.
I mean, we have some good evidence though, because the Evolution card didn't do well. The first Evolution show did okay because they had Ronda Rousey when people still cared, but
it's more of a, what I was going to say is it's more of what I was, is that it seems to me they're using the Blood and Guts set up a change in the Death Riders. It hasn't happened yet. I think that there is more of a reason for the people who went into Blood and Guts against the Death Riders because they smelled blood in the water. Mox has Mox has fallen, and confidence is shaken and that sort of stuff. As opposed to having the women's, and it's like, so it's the Triangle of Madness and Megan Bain and Marina versus whoever they happen to be feuding with. Didn't love that. Now, that's the build. Did they do a good job with the match? Yes. But I feel like there was more fertile ground to do for the men's Blood and Guts. The thing is, if they have one, there are going to be people who bitch about where the other one is. And it's like Matt said, it needs to be the build. It needs to be these two gangs going at each other, and the only way you're going to settle it is in Blood and Guts. And if you don't have that built up on one side or the other, then don't do it. But, if we didn't have one of them or something, then there was going to be a whole big thing about it. Or maybe not an actual whole big thing, but there would be enough clamor that it would seem like there was, if that makes more sense. Like, there'd be enough online noise that it looks like it's a bigger deal than it is in the fan base.
That's an issue with women's wrestling right now is it gets a lot of, I would say, disproportionate amount of chatter than when you look at it in practice. Other than Toni Storm, she's broken through a bit this year, and Mercedes obviously draws on the indies, but when people are, well, the one thing that's interesting, which I don't actually think it's that interesting, is when you start pushing women's wrestling too heavily, you start losing your female demographic.
You do.
And it's the same reason. It's the same reason why the Marvel movies have started dropping off when they've pushed female characters too heavily, is because a lot of women like going to that for the half-naked guys. And when you take that away, they lose interest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, while I think there are female fans who, they enjoy Mercedes, they enjoy Toni Storm, whatever like that. They come for people like Adam Page,
yeah,
or maybe Kyle Fletcher or something like that. It's that's who they come. They actually want to see. They don't necessarily want to see the women. I'm sure they appreciate them, but it's that's where the bread is buttered. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the abs are.
So there's one side, yes, that makes perfect sense to me, but there's this other side that sits in my head of, I mean, wouldn't it also be cool for women to see women doing badass things? But I guess that's not what's drawn most of them in.
No, because the problem Marvel's having is they've taken they went really female heavy because they thought that's what women wanted, and people really don't want to talk about it because there's some there's this weird thing online where you can't talk about how women don't purchase and go to things based on sex appeal, and it's well, why aren't women supporting these Marvel movies with Brie Larson as the star? And it's well, because you took the hot guys with their shirts off away from them.
Well, I was going to say one of the big things for the Marvel movie, the female-led Marvel movies that tanked it, was the fact that, just as an example, it feels like that they don't try as hard because Madam Web was just a god-awful mess that made no sense and was just stumbling all over the case, or all over the place, and it was a horrible script and a horrible movie with nobody seeming like they cared. And
I think there's also when they do that, they're being intentionally obtuse about how men and women consume their entertainment, and there's a psychology to it. It's why comics aren't selling to men right now is because they write it differently. Because women, I don't remember how they would. Women want to be fuck, I have to remember how to say this. Okay, so like when you read like Twilight or something, women are like when they read it like take the place of whatever the fuck Belle
They
like
want
that.
to
Bella,
self-insert
Bella, yeah,
as a
they
protagonist.
self-insert and men don't do that. So like if you were to write Batman to appeal to a guy, you're going to do it differently because the guy isn't going to self insert as Batman. He's going to be like, "Oh man, I want to be Batman because Batman's like awesome and he does this and this." Whereas like if you write it for a woman, they want to see themselves in the main character, I think is how it is. I'm
Okay,
butchering how
I
this is.
follow what you're saying. The idea that historically the typical the typical preferred way of enjoying a protagonist for men is men want to be like that character, whereas women want that character to be them.
It's like when someone talks about Twilight, they're like, well, Bella is like really a dull one note character. It's like, well, yeah, because she's written that way, so she's easy to replace with yourself.
Well, she's written that way because Stephanie Meyer is a hack who can't write for shit. It took off
Well, it's
because it's
Stephanie
easy to
Meyer. Yeah.
self-insert that.
Why are you hating on
Let's.
Mormon vampires?
I'm not hating on Mormon vampires. I'm hating on a crappy author. There's a
I'm
difference.
just saying, like, watch that movie, and when the werewolf guy becomes a werewolf, he can't remember how to wear a shirt for the rest of the movie
Hmm.
series, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, there was whenever those movies came out, there was a gaming group I was part of, and there was a young woman in it who we would be playing FPS stuff, and then we would just hear her be like, "Oh man, I want some Taylor Lautner right now," and I'd be like, "Okay, first of all, can we focus? And second of all, what in the hell are you talking about?" And she'd be like, and she'd go like, hmm, "I'm team Team Jacob." I remember I looked it up because I used it in a promo. On there, I was feuding with kind of this sort of goth faction, and so I would. The promo was, you guys, you have me all confused. I don't know if you're Team Edward, Team Jacob, what it is, but you don't make any sense to me at all. And that at least got a laugh. So
But that's kind of that. There's a greater discussion about that I think has some like basis, and I butchered it, but that's kind of how people interact differently with it. And I honestly think like trying to force it just doesn't work. Like there's a reason Barbie did so well is because they actually tried to appeal to women instead of like what they're doing
well,
now.
my wife was not a big Barbie girl. Um, and she really liked the movie. And I was like, I haven't delved into why really, because it's like, you enjoy it. That's all I'm really concerned. Did you have a good time? But
I think
um,
because women don't get something that actually tries to appeal like movie wise, they don't get something that tries to just appeal like to them. They get stuff like Star Wars where it's like, well, this is a property for guys, but we're gonna try and twist it and like force it for you to like it, even though you didn't like it before. So why are you gonna? So here's this male property with all these male things to it, but we're trying to make it appeal to you instead of just
never
making
mind.
some.
Never mind the fact that in the first movie, Princess Leia kicked ass.
Is actually
They
funny how much the '80s got it right when it's like, yeah, you had He-Man and then you had She-Ra, and it worked.
there's there's a lot of things that it's like with I don't know if it's I've actually struggled to think because I pondered like why do people sometimes just not get it? Like when they do the whole thing like we want to appeal to these people, and it's like well that's actually a good goal. Like and it makes sense to want to appeal to everyone because that in theory like increases your customer base. Your everyone can latch onto this fandom, but I don't know why like some people just like they can't nowadays like they don't seem like they can do it right. And we've talked about this before in the show. Like for example, like let's go to talk about comics like Marvel comics. Like back in the day in the 80s, I think. I don't think it was the 70s. I think I know for sure he really got a lot of play in the 80s and the 90s, but uh Jim Rhodes War Machine and Iron Man like had the whole iconic thing he was introduced like he's Tony Stark's bodyguard. Tony Stark eventually, gets because of his alcoholism. he steps away from being Iron Man. Jim Rhodes steps in as Iron Man, and then when Tony Stark makes the comeback, he's Iron Man again. You have this established character, African American minority character, and then he gets spun off to it's like, now I'm War Machine, I'm my own hero in my own right, and everyone is just like, yeah, War Machine's awesome, man, and like, you know, and he for the last like 40 plus years has been a very established, popular character where they've done books. He's had his own books. He's been part of Avengers lineups, like, you know, and that's like back, you know, less enlightened time, and they did it all right. And now it's sometimes they'll just shoehorn things where it's like, no, we're appealing to this, and it's like,
Are you?
I don't know what it is. They're just not doing it well
It's
enough, or they're
cynical.
trying to do it in such a ham-fisted way. Yeah, maybe they're doing it in such
Well,
a ham-fisted
here's
way
the
that
thing
it's like,
too. What
it's not organic. Like it
So-
doesn't feel. It feels odd.
Well, so here's I think here's some issues with what their issue now is like, so when you try to appeal to everyone, you don't appeal to anyone, and I think you can do things to give things wider appeal, but at some point you do have to pick a lane. Like you do have to pick a lane. But I also think there's this really toxic notion I see a lot in entertainment right now, where there's this idea that like you can't identify with someone unless they are exactly like you. Like there's this idea that like oh well we need a Batman of every ethnicity, because if he's not exactly the same race as that person, he won't, like, they can't see themselves in him. And it's like, well, no, like you should, like, inclusion is important in like having, you know, characters of a wide breadth, but like that doesn't mean like you won't see yourself in a character that's not like you.
So it's an interesting mix, because one of the characters in DC that I really, really enjoyed came out of the reign of the Superman. I really enjoyed John Henry Irons, Steel. I was like, I remember reading that and seeing what his story was, and I was like, this dude's really cool. I like this guy. I'd like to see more of him. And then after that arc is over, and he's kind of commissioned as a new hero, he had this arc where it went into dealing with like like hyper violent street crime. And I was like, I have not been in that world. I've heard about it, but this is fascinating, and I wanted to keep reading more of it. I don't look anything like John Henry Irons. I can't identify with John Henry Irons, but Vectron, damn it, not the movie, but I really liked the character, and I wanted to see more of that character. It bothers me.
Oh, that's a good joke.
Yeah.
Well, I think like if you take Peter Parker, like everyone can relate to Peter Parker. Like Peter Parker is like the most everyman, I'd say, character in comics. Like, and like I don't know. I just that's a notion I see a lot, and there's also this notion like Christopher Priest talks about that a lot, and he hadn't written comics for a long time.
Like I was thinking, I actually thought about this because I thought about Christopher Priest since you're talking about this. Like he's like one of the more infamous examples where, you know, he wanted to get hired by DC Comics to do work, and they're like, well, they pitch and stuff. It's like it's all black characters, you know, because he's an African American man. It's like, well, how about you do a book about this black character? And he's like, I'm a writer. I can write anyone. Like, how about Deathstroke?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, yeah, like that's the right attitude. It's like, I don't pigeonhole me because I'm of a certain ethnicity, that I can only write these characters because that's my experience, and I can't write other characters. And the same thing. It's like that people like me, not me, but I'm putting myself in his shoes. It's like, as Christopher Priest, like an African American, a minority character. It's like I can only understand characters that look like me or are supposed to be like me. It's like, no, like he's a writer. He can write anything. Like,
Yeah.
let him do Deathstroke, let him do Superman, let him do any of these other characters that he wants to do. He's a good writer. Like,
If
let
you
him
want to
see.
hire the guy, you just spread out
Yeah.
and you say, look, these are the titles that we need a writer for. How many do you think you could handle and which ones interest you? And you know what you get then? He picks the ones that he's probably going to do well with, that he's interested in, as opposed to being, we are going to hire you to write this one specific thing because that's all we want to give you. And it's like, you're running into, even without any other connotation around it, that's going to be a problem.
Well, sometimes you just want, like, I mean, it's also like, I mean, he brought up Spider-Man, but it's like, yeah, maybe he wants to write Spider-Man. Maybe he was like a big fan, and you're like not letting the man write the character he wants to write.
Yeah. Yeah. Pigeonholing like that is pigeonholing and over focus grouping are just enemies to creativity.
And G.I. Joe got it
Because
right in the 80s. Like, G.I. Joe is actually, G.I. Joe doesn't get enough credit for how trailblazing they were in that regard and how they handled, like, the diversity of their cast of characters.
Oh, and some of their more awesome characters are minority characters. Like, and also we've talked about this in the show,
Because,
like, of high rank. Like, Stalker is one of the top Joes in terms of like their ranking. Good American Man.
and
One of
Shipwreck's
one of the most
Hispanic. I think
yeah.
is Tunnel Rat
Hector
from the
Elizondo is
is
his actual name in the
is
file card.
is Tunnel Rat Filipino from the movie?
He's supposed to be at least Asian American, and
Yeah.
I think he's based on Larry Hama from Larry Hama's Vietnam experience.
Larry
Hama or is Larry Hama kind of like an XP of Quick Kick or both? I think
it's
the
probably
lore was
Tunnel
always
Rat because
Tunnel Rat.
he's a vet and everything. It seems like it would fit Hama better. I'm gonna be so sad when Hama dies because like he's built that franchise from like nothing essentially. Because he used to write the cards, the back.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I used to cut those out and keep those when I was little.
I didn't cut them out. I just kept the whole card. There was a whole section on my bookshelf that was just the cards that the action figures came on. I'd get them out and read them sometime.
So I looked it up in just a few seconds since it's mentioned. The character's name his file card name is Nicky Lee. He's supposed to be of Chinese descent.
Oh, okay.
But he is modeled after Larry Hama.
Okay. And
Larry Hama was born in New York.
Is Alpine Hispanic too?
No, Alpine is African American.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of oh shit, what's his name? Sorry, there's too many Joes to remember.
The thing that gets me is if you're on a kick where you want to do that, it like Green Lantern did a good job with it. They created 2 new lanterns. They've created lanterns to add on, and it's worked. They wanted to have a lantern that was of, and I don't remember the particulars, but of a Middle Eastern origin. So
Simon Baz.
Simon Baz.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to do something with a character that had an anxiety disorder, and that was it. Jessica Cruz.
Yeah.
Okay. They made characters for it and built them up.
And then they
which is
proceeded
perfect.
to do
okay.
And then they proceeded to do. They finally got to the point where I was kind of into Simon Baz, and then they proceeded to do fuck and all with him for like the last decade.
Well, yes, they dropped the ball on that. Bad booking. If you want to really, like, I would think, and maybe this is just, I'm spitballing here, but if you've decided that you want to make this a thing, I would think, at least for DC, the perfect platform would be bring back the Legion of Superheroes, because you can do all kinds of stuff with that.
Actually, that is coming back in next year.
Okay. Well, you've got an opportunity to do an absolutely wide array of stuff there, and science fiction has, in a lot of ways, been an avenue to explore social concepts or conflicts through metaphor. You've got it right there. Why don't you just use that? Make that, if that's something you want to do, right there. It's waiting for you.
Sorry, you just made me think of the Harvey Birdman episode where they have like Black Vulcan on the stand about the super friends. Like why are they always pairing me up with a white super friend? Like I'm gonna start super looting the first time their backs are turned. It's like, and what? Like I didn't call myself Black Vulcan. Like I was Super Bold.
That and
Was that the Apache?
Apache Chief.
Was that when he burned
Ooh,
his junk with the coffee or whatever? Is that why?
I don't know.
That
I
show
don't
was
have a
good
good
for
answer.
like 2 seasons, and then it like went horribly off the rails.
I never watched it, so I don't have a
Oh,
good
it's
answer for you.
hilarious. If you especially like the more you know about Hanna-Barbera cartoons, like it's hilarious. But so this is kind of we're talking because so it's kind of a conversation that people are sidestepping around. But so like I guess attendance on like at the independent, well, across wrestling's bad, but the independents, I guess it's getting pretty dire for them. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. Like a lot of people are just like straight up just saying, "Oh, it's the economy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think that's part of the problem, but I was thinking back to like the recession in 2008 and I was like, "Well, no, like that there were some indies that really started to thrive around then because like yeah, money can get tight, but things like movies and lower cost things like wrestling have tended to do okay in times of like economic hardship because they're low cost entertainment that people can go to. So I do think that's a problem though, because I think a lot of indies have gotten too expensive.
You're gonna have a certain amount of drop off just because of that. People just not having disposable income for it. Some of that's gonna happen, yes. Um, some of it is gonna be due to other things.
Like I like
But
some
we
indies around here like want $50 for like ringside. I'm just kind of like, man, you guys are a little too pricey with that.
Yeah, that's that is creating a barrier to entry that probably shouldn't be there. You're going to have to strike a balance somewhere. You're going to have a balance that is, hey, we have to make enough back to pay the building rental. We have to make enough back to pay the guys, that sort of stuff. Um,
But I think you could be creative with that though, because I think you could do like, hey, a front row seats. I don't know. We'll say $30. I think that's like a fair price. But it's like, but hey, if you pay $80, then you know you can we'll give you credit towards autographs, or you can do like a meet and greet with the guys before or after the show and get like a little more VIP treatment. Like those are easy ways to like get some to milk some whales without hurting your draw.
AEW had and I haven't looked for a long time because they haven't been in the area for me to look at tickets, but they had a package where it was like, this is how much it is for, arena seating. Okay, cool. Now, but if you buy this group package, you end up saving, I don't know, it was a package that had like 5 or 6 tickets in it, and you save $45 overall if you bought like the block of seats. And I was like, hey, that's got some that's we've got something going here. I don't remember the exact numbers. I could be wrong on that. I remember the concept existing.
Well, and I think like I mean, and I think there is some trouble. Like you do have to, because I mean, at a lot of indie shows, if people are watching, you haven't been like when you go to indie shows, like especially the smaller ones, a lot of the guys are hawking their wares like during and
Yeah.
after the show. So like you don't want to impede on. That's how I met Eddie Kingston. Actually, was at a Chikara show. He was selling
So
his
he was working the table.
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's pretty standard at a lot of shows. And I haven't been to that many indie shows in like a while. Like the last one I went to, was it even? It may have, I think it was last year. May have been last year. Um, maybe even like the year before. Like it's been quite some time, but uh, I said it's like they have like a following at least with the promotion. Like they're out there like selling their stuff, and actually Nyla Rose was there. I think she may have had like a table, but it's like you sell your 8x10s, you sell like if you have a T-shirt or something, you know, pretty standard. The one that I know that will run here, Virginia Championship Wrestling. They're based more out of Norfolk, and they do shows in Roanoke. Every like couple times a year they do it in neck of the woods. And they do it in Alexandria, Virginia, which is not that far. It's just outside of DC. They actually were here this past weekend, but it's not able. I actually forgot they were. I forgot they were running a show. Sad to say, so I didn't buy tickets to go see them. But it's also tough because I got small kids. It's like,
Yeah.
to go out, like I'd have to get a babysitter for the night to go out to it.
And they're not old enough.
We've done before, but
And they're not old enough to take yet either.
oh my God, this is an anecdotal story, but my oldest is turning 6 in 2 days, and for this show, like when we were reviewing the Fantastic, we were reviewing like matches for the last show. I was watching them like on my phone because I was like trying to watch the stuff for the to watch for the show, and she was like, because Shaq can attest, like kids are obsessed, like, oh, you're watching a video on your phone.
They want to see what you're watching.
What are you looking at? And so my oldest daughter, like, she looked at it, and they're performing some moves. Like one guy like performed a move, and like the other one fell down, and she's like, "Is he dead? Did he die?" No, it's not really real. Like they're fine. But she was fascinated by it. I can actually see her when she gets older, maybe being into it. Because she's very tomboyish and she likes like activity, like physical activity. So I can see her getting all like excited by the fake violence of it.
I had that talk with both of my kids, and I was like, "Look, you're old enough that I can talk to you about this now. Okay, here's the score. They are working together to put on a show. That's what they're trying to do. Everything's about having a show." But what they're doing also hurts. So don't do it to each other. And every now and then one of them will kind of lose the plot and be like, "Oh, Dad, is he gonna be okay?" Yeah, he's all right. Don't worry. Yeah, don't. It's fine. Yes, okay. Go to bed. Because it turns into this. God. 20 questions, but then other times one of them I'll be watching it, I'll be watching something, and one of them will come up and sit down with me and goes, "Then they're okay because they're working together to put on a show, right?" "That's right, buddy. That's right." And, that's great, but they're still not old enough that I would take them to a wrestling show. Some people would say, "Oh yeah, it's fine. They're old enough," and I get it. That's your prerogative, but I wouldn't take mine. Um, my youngest would get bored super quick. My oldest, honestly, is so empathetic that he would just feel bad for everybody and worry about whether or not they're getting hurt.
I have logistical issues with like I think it'd be about 10-ish before I would take a kid, because there'd be a couple things at indie show. One, I'd be worried about other fans like saying shit I don't want them to hear. But
Yeah.
I think my big concern would be like, and I know workers would be conscious of that, but like if something were to happen, their ability to, because I know Matt's been in that situation. I don't know how many shows Shad's been at that level, but sometimes you gotta jump ship and like save yourself from something going on. And I don't know, like, especially a small kid, like, I know they would try to be careful about that, but, like, getting them away if something, like, came your way.
How can I best put this? If that was in my situation, then I am, me moving involves scooping them up with me.
because I know I went to a show like and there was a battle royal and one of the guys got eliminated. Actually, the farmer frog and Chikara like pretty much like rolled like got eliminated. I was in the front row and then he like was resting his head on my leg selling for like a couple of minutes. And then the guy next to me like this heel the guy that killed Dragon actually who did this. He literally jumped on the guy next to me and screamed in his face, I got him when he did like a rolling senton off the apron. He like bounced off the guy and like just yelled at his face. But yeah, so there'd be that too. But I think the economy is an oversimplification though as a reason. And I think it excuses.
I'm not going to say that it is the only reason. I will say it's a major reason.
I would say it's a reason, but I also think the indies are doing I think when money is tight, you can still justify yourself. Like if people really want to go and like you're really doing something there into, they're gonna they'll try to find a way to make the money or get the money to go. And I think the problem is like people's money is a little more tight, but those promotions aren't doing things to make people want to spend that money on them.
Yeah. So part of it, I'm also going to say is that there is a difficulty in your talent because on one hand, the talent that you have that's been around for a while has been around for a while and it hasn't moved up or moved on. So it's been around for a while and you've seen it. And your up and coming talent isn't known yet. So you have less opportunity to have that star on the rise that people look at and go, "Oh man, that guy's going to make it," and so they're excited to see them because they're good or something like that.
I think the economy thing is a part of it, but I would say a small part. Like because
like
the WWE
oh go ahead.
The WWE has been going down, and part of it is because they're getting cold. And the booking this year, I would actually look. I'm a true hater, so I'd actually argue that the booking has never actually been as good as people think it is, but it has actually been demonstrably bad to the point where even like huge WWE Fed fans are like the booking this year has been ass. So if people who are like drinking the Kool-Aid are like it's bad, it's bad. But I'm digressing a bit. Like it's not been a good year creatively, so it's gonna cool down. Always going to cool down. Everything's cyclical in wrestling. Like it's going to cool down. But they also are pricing people out. We've talked about this in the show many times before. So shows that maybe even earlier this year, so not even like 12 months like calendar year, like earlier this year, places that they were pulling like 10,000, 12,000 seats, now they're doing like 6,000, 8,000 because it's like, but they're still making like a ton of money. Part of it's what Brad said, like inertia. Part of it's also like you're charging more. So you can maybe you're not selling 10,000 tickets like you were, you're only selling like 8,000. But you're still making like the same amount of money or even more because you're charging more. But that will eventually start just ebbing away. So I mean, I think part of that is economic because WWE is like going down, but also not because the indies are still like reasonably cheap. Like I just looked up the one I talked about, Virginia Championship Wrestling. They're doing a show, probably the last show of the year, in December in Norfolk, Virginia, which I can't go to because it's on a Saturday night. Norfolk, from where I live, is probably like a 3-4 hour drive. Like it's not doing that. I'd have to do an overnight with kids. Like I doubt that's happening. But it's the I think the most expensive ticket, which I imagine is probably like ringside or, first 2-3 rows, $32 a seat.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Like, that's pretty. It's pretty reasonable. Like, if me and the wife, it's the wife to go in theory, like, I'd be looking at less than $100 for both of us to go see, and that's like best seats probably possibly could get. Uh, Beyond that, it's like 20 something in the $20 range for seats. It's like that's perfectly reasonable, and I can't imagine that there's many different indie shows out there that are charging like an astronomical amount. Like they probably aren't. Uh,
Yeah.
Chad, I don't know what Kentucky wrestling is actually
KWF.
charging. Yeah,
I
probably
think
not.
it's
Probably not a ton.
I think it's 20 for ringside and 10 for general.
That's fantastic. Like if I was in that area and I'm like $20 ringside, I'd be like, here's my money. Like give me a ringside seat. Because that's super affordable. So I don't think I can see I can see like economics is a factor because and my wife and I have had this discussion too. It's like there are things that when you're trying to cut costs and save, it's like entertainment is one of the things that you do because it's like you don't necessarily need that. And we've talked about that, like a lot of because we've like looked at our expenditures, and it's like a lot of our expenditures is doing stuff for the kids.
Yeah.
You know, and we're trying to let our kids have like a lifestyle that which basically like the lifestyle we never had. Like we did, but also not. Like our kids have done things that my wife and I did not do or did only did infrequently. Like for example, when we were kids, like maybe every so often we go to like the pumpkin patch as a kid, right? Like we take our kids to pumpkin patches like at least twice a year during October pumpkin patch season. It's like, but that costs money. Like they want these places want money like for tickets. It's like going to the pumpkin patch on the weekend. It's not just this like fun thing for the kids. It's like this super fun thing. For mom and dad, it's like let me plot down $100 to go for all of us to go to the pumpkin. It gets expensive, right? So there are things it's like you cut out. And it's like, well, do we need to go to the pumpkin patch every weekend in October? Maybe not. Maybe just go to one. Maybe we pick our one or two favorite pumpkin patches. And that's an example. So
but I
if
think
you like,
but I think like
okay.
going along with that, like so, I've been in that situation recently because of my financial changes. So when you start looking at stuff though, it's like, okay, like I don't know, an example. Like let's say the ROH, Club ROH, I'd be like, okay, well I can cut that. But then it gets to something like Stardom or like something I enjoy and use a lot. It's like, well, like okay, like that is like the last thing on the cutting block. Because like yeah, you do make those choices, but something that you really enjoy or whatever, you're gonna try to save it.
Yes. Well, this is a weird example of one of the things you've talked about before, like offline. It's like you had like a subscription to Shudder, which does like horror theme stuff, and they're gonna raise rates, and you're like, nope, dropping you. Like even if it's only like $5, it's like, do I need you to pay like $5 for you a month? Like maybe I can live without that $5. And yeah, that's the thing. It's like, look, when it started to go kind of downhill, and it's been going downhill. We talked about it, but New Japan World, when it's like I don't have time to watch this, you're kind of going downhill. It's like I just basically stopped like 2 years ago my sub for New Japan World, and I haven't really gone back. I've kept my sub for Wrestle Universe because to me that's a better value in that it's like it's $10, actually less.
It's 8, I think.
And you get like how many promotions with Wrestle Universe?
10,
You get
I
Noah.
think.
Yeah, you get like an insane amount. Like it started off with just like Noah, DDT, Tokyo Joshi Pro, and like one more, like 4, and they just been adding. Like they have Marigold, they have like I think Michinoku Pro, they have like a ton.
Marvelous is on there now, I think.
Yeah, they have multiple different promotions for the same like $10. Like if you just have that, if you just have Wrestle Universe, you probably between all the promotions, you have enough content that you could for the
watch
$10 you pay a month.
You could watch something every day and not
Every
run out of
day.
new stuff.
You could watch like a show every day and not just like let me watch like a 20-minute match.
And
you
could
watch
or let me go back
1.5 hour to 2 hour show.
Or let me go back 3 years ago to like make that work. Like no, you could literally watch a show every day.
So yes, I can sense a little bit of play in that you could be like, maybe I don't need maybe I don't need a subscription to this. I every like Mania time, I actually re-up the subscription for well, now it used to be like Fight TV, now it's Triller.
Yeah.
And I've kind of debated like, do I still keep it, because it actually isn't as what it was. But it's also like it's under $100, and you actually do get a decent amount of like indie content.
I think
for that amount.
IWTV is a better deal now, honestly, than Triller.
I wouldn't disagree with that sentiment. I've seen a lot. I don't subscribe, but I see a lot of like stuff on IWTV, which I think actually segue. I think, well, not segue, but a non sequitur. I think Finn Gerard from Chikara fame actually, I think, started IWTV.
Yeah,
he still might own. He still might own and operate
Yeah,
it, which is weird.
I think it is. Yeah. But I think though, so when it goes with that though, is I think that's where the indies are struggling. Is those dollars are drying up, and they aren't reaching out to like justify keeping them, because like I'll use myself as an example. Like I could go to an indie show if I wanted to, but I'll look at the shows around here, and well, they do deathmatch stuff, which I don't like to begin with, but I'll look and I'll be like, okay, well, let's see what like they've been doing on the shows to see if I actually want to go, and it's just like, this is the same shit you were doing like 5 years ago with the same guys, and I was like, why do I like?
That's like another. I think, to me, it's a bigger thing, is that beyond the economic portion, which is again a factor. I don't feel like now like there's the same kind of level of talent that's out there than what was there like 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago. A lot of talent has been gobbled up by AEW or WWE. Lash, like there just isn't like the same crop people
No.
that there were like just a few years ago. And this is kind of running into, in the last year, like the whole we've discussed on the show like the WWE ID thing. And when that came out, a lot of people, including myself, were like, "Oh no, this is like the WWE messing with the indies. It's going to have a negative effect on the indies." And arguably it did, but also it didn't, because that kind of program is it's still in existence. It's kind of quietly died.
Yeah.
Though, because what happened was, and we talked about this, like Joe Lanza of the Flagship and Rich the Flagship like talked about this. It's like a lot of those guys, like, it didn't work out like WWE probably thought. Like a lot of those guys weren't booked.
Well, they weren't booked beforehand. They weren't booked beforehand, and it's something we'll get into, I think, in a little bit. But like, I think they learned a valuable lesson that you can't like just slap the WWE logo anymore on someone and get like tickets at the indie level sold anymore.
No.
And Tegan Knox is finding that out too, because I'll use Sin Bodhi as a good example, and he's not bad. He's not a bad worker. Like, I think he's enjoyable, but like, he lived for years getting indie bookings off of like wrestling a SmackDown match and getting vignettes. And you can't do that anymore.
Like, well, what they have on TV now is mainly a really small crop of people. So you don't, it feels like, you know, when you have a Paul Levesque big show, because I don't want to call them by that one acronym, and there's 4 matches on it, those matches typically involve the same handful of people over and over again. So whoever's lower on the card does not get exposure. Therefore, they're not on TV. They're not on the big shows. And when you go to the indies, say, I work there, they're going to go, you did? You know, you don't have any drawing power that way. You know, Bobby Fish didn't really get any drawing power on the indie stuff, so he was like, okay, I'm done with that.
Well, it didn't help that he was absolutely washed in AEW, so.
Yes, but being washed and a veteran on the indies has never been...
That is true.
That's never stopped people.
But I also think, too, I kind of wonder, and it's just something that popped in my head. I wonder how much that also is impacted by like their current audience aren't really wrestling fans, so you don't get that bleed over of like yesteryear where WWE fans would find their way to indie wrestling just to get like a wrestling fix.
Yeah, the you were saying it to repeat your point with some different verbiage. When things get tight, you've got to prioritize what you're spending on, and it's hard for an independent wrestling show to find your way to be the priority for somebody. That's just straight up difficult to do.
And I think Trevor Dames talked about this last week. We talked about it briefly on the show, but he talked about this and he pretty much said like his opinion is the problem that indies have right now is they're all trying to be WWE or AEW light. And so people
Yeah.
aren't interested in that because they're already getting that need met by the big two. Like you're not going to out WWE the WWE, and you're not going to out AEW AEW. And I think that is true because like if you go back to like when the indie boom, like there was just a wide variety of like styles and stuff that you could find on the indie scene. Like if you wanted an old style promotion, like with how they handled angles and promos and like, but it was a newer style of wrestling, like you had CWF Mid Atlantic. You wanted like
Yeah.
a true like Southern style promotion, you had NWA Anarchy. You wanted comic books, you had Chikara. Like you just don't like no one has like an identity anymore other than oh we do death matches or we don't do death
Yeah.
matches.
It's
I mean,
yeah.
back in like the mid, well, the aughts, but certainly like going into the mid aughts, Ring of Honor still had not kind of died 1,000 deaths necessarily at that point, so they still had some stuff. But you had PWG putting on just like fantastic stuff. But now PWG doesn't even run shows, but to the extent like they started dying, it like AEW kind of is like in some ways a successor for PWG. You can kind of see that stuff in AEW, and some of the pardon me, the indie promotions that actually got a lot of buzz, like Defy. They just announced like they're basically going on indefinite hiatus, so it's like you're kind of closing up shop. So
Yeah.
even like the really people were raving about like this is like the new PWG, like the top indie, like quality wise top indie promotion. They're already like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're done.
And I think you have people like I think Game Changer that have just absolutely shot themselves in the foot repeatedly. So like with them, you can't really argue economy. It's like no, you guys just fucked your product up, so people aren't
Yeah.
interested anymore.
That's sad because I would arguably say I would make the argument that for a time they were like the top indie fed, and we're probably doing better than some shows that actually had like exposure. Like you could, I'd have to look at records in terms of like attendance, but some of those at their peak, Game Changer probably could pull in like a few hundred, even 1,000 people or so, and that was probably doing better than some TNA
And
shows,
Ring of
at least
Honor.
for like their regular. Oh, you're probably for Ring of Honor towards the end. Then at least for like a non like TNA pay per view or something. Which, by the way, like the most recent TNA pay per view that they're talking about, like oh, like set records and everything, it's come after the fact that it's like this is actually heavily papered. So it's like people that were using this and it's like oh look at this, this is the true number 2 promotion. It's like stuff was heavily papered.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
come on.
Well,
Yeah.
they even if
But
even if that had been legitimate, they fucked it up with their follow up. So like
yeah,
it doesn't like that's the thing I think people need to understand. You have to draw like that for consistently without screwing it up because it's really easy to get a crowd once, but if you burn them really quick, they're not going to stay with you.
Yeah, basically what's going to happen is they're going to look at it and go, I'm not going to stay invested in a product that basically keeps abusing me.
Yeah.
And that might sound like overly harsh language, but the truth is, if I go in, if I was watching and I was really pulling for that Santana win, and I finally get it, and then his first defense was that crap that we saw, I'm done. Like, what you have just shown me is that me supporting this guy does not matter.
Yeah.
Um, no, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
out.
And I like WWE's also ruined a lot of promotions. Like, the UK really had a strong indie scene that WWE couldn't handle, so then they ruined it with NXT UK because Progress was special for a while, but it got eaten up by WWE. I really think Mania weekend this year, you could really tell the indies were in dire shape because there was nothing like interesting on those shows, and they had been down the last couple of Mania weekends too. Like to where it's like it used to be like, oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna watch all these shows too. Well, like maybe I'll watch this show. Like I don't know. It's just gotten less and less interesting as like the talent's dried up. People aren't taking like creative risks or anything.
Yeah, it's yeah. I had the conversation with somebody the other day. They asked me. They said, if your health was all fixed, would you get back in the ring? And I said, yeah, but I would do things very differently. I'd be a goofball because nobody does that. Nobody, and like you said, nobody takes the creative risk. Nobody's willing to be silly and do something goofy because why? It's it's fun, and it's like, I'm not gonna be at the top of the card. You know why not? Because I'm the goofball guy. But people like that. But we're in this. It feels to me like whenever you're entering a down period when everybody wants to be super serious. Everyone wants to be taken seriously, and nobody's willing to be goofy. Well, okay. Um, then you have the same thing happening over and over again. You don't have variety on your shows. Honestly, I think that's part of what, and this is weird, I'll fully admit it, but I think that's part of what has made Dominic Mysterio work is that the guy is not portraying himself as the super awesome badass. He talks a big game, he gets his ass beat, he sneaks out wins, that sort of stuff. It's different from everything else they have on their TV. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air in terms of character stuff. All right, well, I'm happy for him. That worked. But then you look at everybody else on the card, and I mean, aside from entrances, honestly, it just feels like they kind of run together. What, you know, I'm not going to go into that. I haven't watched enough recently to be able to do that
Well,
intelligently.
I think that's why I was impressed with how JR approached the KWF because he was like, okay, well, I'm not going to use just the guys that the last promotion here used because that's going to get me off to a bad start. People already have seen that. Like, I'll use some of those guys, but I'm going to bring in outsiders. Like, I'm going to bring in fresh blood. I'm going to give people a chance. Like, I want there to be variety. I want some new faces to come through. Like, I want young guys that I can build around. And
off the top of my head, of guys on the KWF shows, I know of 4 off the top of my head who have been in the business for less than 5 years. And at least one of them is only 18 months in. And here's the thing about the guy that's 18 months in, and not a lot of people watching, but if you go look up Michael Montana, Michael Montana's whole gimmick, this dude is ripped. He's in great shape. He's got good ring work. But what is his gimmick? His gimmick is he calls himself the queen of the back room. Like he very much he very much Gorgeous Georges it, right? And he's willing to do that. And it's like, you know what? Cool. Like this guy's got he doesn't have an ego about having to win all the time. He's got a handle on his gimmick. Awesome. And a lot of the younger guys are just you run into less drama because it's not like, well, I put my time in, I should be whatever. One of the longest running guys we've had around never got belted up in another promotion, but everybody wants to book him because he's good and everybody likes him.
That we've talked about that before too, but a lot of guys like they get I am encouraged that you say that there's some younger guys that have the attitude. It's like you have to realize sometimes you have to just show ass. Like you have to be willing to show ass or just embarrass yourself because it's like yeah, because that's part of it. Like part of it's like sometimes you have to go out there and just accept it. That's part. No one's gonna be. It's the rare talent that you're gonna get like the Goldberg push. It's like
Yeah.
I mean, never lose and booked as a monster. It's like
Yeah.
or you have the attitude. It's like I'm gonna get my shit in. It's like most of you are not so talented.
Yeah.
That's so obvious that it's like yes, we want you to get your shit in because your shit's so fantastic. It's like you go out there, do your hard work, like avail yourself well of people, be willing to do whatever. Be like, yeah, I'll go out there and like, it's like I think even Brad was saying, it's like last week with the Nixon Newell thing. It's like, yeah, maybe it sucks to be like, oh, you're gonna lose in like 3 minutes, almost a squash match. But if your attitude is like, well, really would love more than 3 minutes because I feel like I can show you guys I can have a good match longer, but I'm all I have is 3 minutes. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and you're gonna watch me die in the most dramatic fashion possible in 3 minutes. Let me go to my opponent. Hey, what's your finishing mover? Okay, so what you're gonna do? Like, you're gonna beat the piss out of me for like 2 minutes 30 seconds, and then you're gonna hit that finisher, and I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die in front of everyone. Dramatic. It's gonna be like Looney Tunes. Where I'm gonna fall down. You're gonna see. I'm gonna hold up like a bunch of flowers. It's gonna pop up. You're gonna hold a bunch of flowers. Like,
well, like I know they sandbag Megan Bain, but like if I was them in that situation, I'd be like, hey Megan, you'd be really cool. Why don't you stack us on top of each other and pin both of us at the end of it?
Yeah.
That's one of the stories that I've heard that I really, really like is Kevin Knight of Jet Speed will come up with ideas and go and give them to other people and be like, hey, I thought of this. It would be really cool for you to do it. And he takes these ideas and gives them to other people. And it's like, that's a dude I want to have around. You know why? Because he just wants the show to be better. You were talking about people showing ass. Mercedes Moné is one of the most pushed people in the world right now. She had Chris Statlander electric chair face bust her into a cake, right?
Well,
and she went down and she came up with the cake there and was like screaming and crying about it. Show some ass because if you don't, you're boring.
How many times the greatest of all time, Ric Flair, how many times, if you go back and watch TV in the 80s, has he been stripped down to his boxers and he's raging with his like socks and garters on because like someone tore his
looking like a fool. Fool.
Yeah.
Shad, to your point about Mercedes, I see people who like don't get her and just raging about her. Usually like they're Fed fans who are just really incensed that she left the promotion and then has become even more successful. But she has a dozen plus belts at this point.
Yeah.
And I've seen people like I think Jason G on Twitter, like he very, very much a clown. He's like, why is she coming out with the belts all the time? And someone responded, and it's like, this is the perfect response to them. It's like, because she's a heel and she knows that clowns like you are going to be like offended by that, so that's why she does it. She brings all the belts out because she knows you're going to like rage and see that it's like, and it's like, yeah, she's a heel. She's going to like rub it in your face that
But
she has all
guys
these
have
belts.
that's such a dumb
But then when
argument
she
though.
needs
Guys have
to,
always come out with
she'll
their
like take the piss.
Yeah.
guys have always come out
It's
with all
an
their
arrogant
belts.
heel gimmick.
Yeah.
But if you had that's such a dumb argument though, because like if you had a shitload of belts you'd be coming out with all of them. Like Ultimo Dragon and WCW came out with the J Crown when he had
Yeah.
it, and he had all the belts. Like that's such a dumb thing because it's a cool visual.
Yeah. It's an arrogant heel, and I'm convinced her downfall is going to be when Statlander beats her, and it's going to be you might have all these belts, but you can't get the one you really want. That she's going to spiral and start losing stuff over and over and over again, and crash and burn, and put over people that she's beat on the way up. Like I'm betting on that happening.
I also think
Not like money, but still.
I also think on the heel front too, which they don't understand is like you get more heat for showing ass than being invincible because people get bored with being invincible. Like when you show ass, it gives them hope that you'll lose, and like sometimes like getting humiliated is like gets you more over.
Yeah, because
It
it
also,
seems like there's a chance of you losing.
but it also adds like a humanizing / humility aspect to it. So, because even though like you're the heel, like people want to see your comeuppance. It also opens like a little bit of a window there that it's like maybe eventually people want to see you turn face. Like you showed adversity, like you suffered. Maybe there's hope for you. Maybe you're gonna like become a face, down the road. Like it actually lets people like it oddly can endear you to them. Like it's like, okay, you're vulnerable. Like people are empathetic. Like people actually are naturally empathetic to the point where like maybe it's like, yeah, you deserve it. You deserve what you're gonna get. And you do, but it's also like a little part of them is like, right, yeah, you got it. Like that's it. Like we're cool now. It's like, yeah, maybe that opens up the window too that you can eventually like turn face. And I presume Mercedes will at some point eventually turn face in AEW.
Yeah.
Like I think she's a great heel, so like and she's more of a natural heel, so it's like she's like the Ric Flair. It's like you can work as a face because Ric Flair actually did work as a face.
He was very
But it's like
successful
you're
as
not
a
gonna have Ric
face.
Flair as a face for like 3-4
Well,
years. You're gonna have him as a face for like
there's
maybe like a 6-month period. and
he
then he's gonna turn right
actually
back to you.
he actually does not take enough heat like as a booker because he kept because that's actually one of the things that ended up killing WCW in '99 is the double turn when he turned heel because people didn't want him to be a heel and he was drawing, and that's something when he gets his way booking he turns himself heel again and it always hurts business when he does it.
Yeah.
90 he turned himself heel and it killed business too.
Yeah.
But I think like I would say so. I'd say creativity. There is a problem. There aren't like talents that demand to be seen. I don't think those promotions have done a great job of building those people either. And I would say like also stale talent because I think going back to JR, I think one of the great like JR could have done the easy thing and be like, oh yeah, I'm opening this promotion up in this town with all the talent that the last company used that obviously didn't work out because that company ain't there no more. So like that's what I think a lot of people do, and I think a lot of these promotions are doing right now. And I think like they don't have like a clear vision for themselves. Like they don't have a voice.
The difficulty is that you're still trying, any new promotion is going to have a harder time right now drawing people in.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult right now. Starting out, any new promotion is going to be difficult starting out. It just is. Do I wish that was different? 100%.
Because you have to have money. You can't bring in the best talent to start with. In a lot of markets, you probably have to you probably have to make up for what the last promotion did that chased everyone away. So something you're not even responsible for, like you're going to pay the price for.
Yeah. And you're just trying to make it, you're trying to put on a good show and get people to come to it. And that it takes some time. So there may be promotions out there that are trying to do the same thing that KWF's doing, but it's hard to it's hard to build in the down cycle period.
Yeah, it is. Because you're kind of buying in when everyone's out.
Now, the nice thing is that if it hits an upswing, then your loyalists will be there and they'll be supplemented by more people, but that doesn't do you a lot of good in the moment.
Yeah, and I think it is true to a degree. Like when the promotion you like is down, it makes you less interested in wrestling. And I think that's where I think the indie boom came from. Is like when that happened, you got this perfect storm of like all these streaming platforms came up and you could watch a promotion for cheap, but also you had stars that were comparable to get to the big leagues, but also you had all these promotions offering you um variety. Like you could go out and find a promotion that like fit your needs like really well. And I don't like when I look at indie promotions now, I'm just kind of like, man, this is just kind of a sea of the same now. Like everyone's just kind of like this quasi like trying to do like the quasi super indie thing from like the 10s,
Yeah.
and it without the super part, and it just feels like the same now.
Yeah. I
There's
don't like that. Go ahead, Matt.
there's
I'm
a
sorry.
few guys. There's a few guys that I think are like. I mean, I mean that's law of averages, right? There's always going to be some people that kind of break through the mold, but there's a couple guys that I think are like interesting. I agree with you. Like, there's a lot of like homogenized talent out there. The guys like Mad Dog Conley,
Yep.
he's kind of he's a little bit like a throwback kind of to. I mean, it's not necessarily like a new kind of gimmick or aesthetic or presentation, but he's interesting and a good worker.
Adam
Uh,
Priest, but he seems like he's in the AEW pipeline now though, which good for him.
yeah, I don't know if he has a AEW Ring of Honor contract. I would love to see him.
He's been teaming
He's
with
a few times.
Jay Lethal and who's the other guy he's teaming with?
He's been teaming a lot with Tom Billington.
And Jay Lethal, yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
well,
I just saw. Oh God, who? I need to look up who he's like a champion for. But I just saw like a clip of a promo he did, where he's like the champion of a promotion, and it's like, well, this is a very not safe for work like promo.
is it comparable to this here is a bitch dog?
It's bitch dog. Yeah, basically, because he's like I'm the world champion. It's like that don't mean shit. Like world like heavyweight. He's like, I'm the world heavyweight champion. That don't mean shit. I'm 180 pounds, 30 of it's dick. So fuck y'all. And he like walks off, and it's like, oh my god. But it's like he showed so much personality in like a 10-second clip. But he's a good worker.
I like what, going back to that, I loved when when because it was a dog collar match and Conley's trying to pull him back in and he's like grabbing onto the crowd, like trying to like keep himself from being pulled back into. That was such a good spot.
Yeah. I loved that.
Good for him. I'm glad he's getting some big league play, because he's a guy that WWE would never touch because of his accent
and his size.
Yeah,
like
but and I hate that from them though, because his accent really makes him. That's what I love about him, because his character works so much with the accent.
Yeah, dude, the matches that he and Billington had with FTR were so good. They were so good, and you cannot say that just FTR carrying them. No, they were not that kind of match.
It wasn't.
They were spectacular.
And I've actually said this before about Billington. He got injured for a while, so he was out for a while. but before he got injured, he had a match. Timeline wise, I don't know if it was early this year or if it was late last year, because again, he was injured, he was out for a while, but he had a match, which is like one of his first AEW matches. But Billington had a match with Dax, I think on Collision.
Yeah, I think it was Collision.
That went long. It was like it wasn't like a 5-minute squash. It was like
It was
a
like
10.
Yeah, it was like
plus
10
minute.
minutes.
Yeah, and it was, again, for people like us who watched a lot of wrestling over many years, like you and I can see where the vet Dax is kind of carrying the match and he's directing the match.
Mm-hmm.
But so he's doing some things where he's like directing it. He's like making sure like Billington is like, okay, now like I'm gonna feed for you, like you do this, like whatever. You can see it, like we all can see it. Like Shad obviously knows better than us because he's been in the ring, but Brad and I have seen enough that it's like we can see like see where the veteran is like leading the younger guy. But he gave Tom Billington so much in that match that I was like, oh, Dax likes this guy, because a vet, even like a vet being like, oh, let me let the young kid like show what he's got. He gave so much to this kid in a way that was very selfless, and it's like, you like him. You like him because you're showing ass. You know, because that was like what made the match great. It's like he sold his ass off for this kid. He showed ass. Like he knew it's like my job is to make this kid look good. So there are points where I'm gonna make myself look like a fool. Like he's gonna get the better of me until it's time for me to make a comeback. Like I'm gonna get the better of him. You know, I'm the veteran, and that actually made me think. We saw it, like made me think of like the match we saw that long ago when we did the Barry Windham matches, when he turned heel against what's Tommy Rogers of
Bobby Fulton.
But it's Bobby Fulton, sorry. Yeah, and he like it was a great match, but it's like we saw just before like Barry Windham as a face and then Barry Windham as a heel, and it's like night and day, because Barry Windham was talented enough and understood the assignment. It's like, all right, now I need to go out there. I'm a heel. I'm going to act differently. I'm going to work differently, and I'm going to take the piss. I'm going to show my ass at the points I need to. I'm going to make the babyface look good, and that's what Dax did. Like it's like, I need to make him look good. So Dax, I think, really like loves Tom Billington. So it corresponded like with these most recent matches with Tom Billington and Adam Priest. Like they gave them a lot, and they must like Adam Priest too, because Adam Priest looked great. He's a good worker. He looked great. Yes, they made him look great. But they just work like I like the tag team of Adam Priest and Tom Billington. I would love to see, I personally would love to see Ring of Honor get some sort of TV deal. It doesn't have to be like TBS or TNT. Like I have it on Fox or something. Just something where it's like, you know, they have something beyond just like the Honor Club stuff, because I think that they should get more than they get. And even like an hour program, like you can actually book around it, and there's a ton of talent that you could actually showcase. And Billington and Priest are really top. They really have a lot of promise, so I'd love to see them actually get a run, you know, and pushed heavily. Like they look great.
So there's a interesting question that popped in chat from I'm going to apologize for butchering this, because I'm probably going to butcher it. Karinder Malhi said, has the rise of large corporate platforms impacted the visibility of indie work?
It's impacted the talent level more. That's a very good question. It's impacted the talent level more. So what happened is like a second large company came up. So what usually happens on the wrestling level is they build up their top crop. They would get picked up by national promotions, but the second group was ready to take their place, and then they would get their time in the sun. So then it would kind of work like that. But then what happened is AEW came around, and because they had to fill a roster, so that top group got taken, but then the second group got taken quicker than normal. So then they had to go down to the third level of guys that needed the time that second group was going to be on top to build up to be that. So it's impacted them in that they lost a generation of top talent to draw for them. So now they're 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 trying to use like mid. Okay, I'm going to use stand up comedy here in case you're not a wrestling fan. They're trying to now use guys like the middle guy of a comedy show as their headliners before those middle guys developed enough to have an hour of content versus 10 minutes. That's kind of what's happening. Because with, I would say, the corporate side of wrestling, it doesn't necessarily impact the visibility of indie work because where indies get in a lot of trouble is they don't advertise themselves very well. Like, I know I've had promotions in my town as a wrestling fan that I didn't know existed because they just did not do a good job of like getting their name out there. So I don't think the corporate entities hurt them too bad in that respect. They hurt them in a talent, like with the talent. Because
So one of the other things that I wanted to add is when it comes to helping visibility, it is easier to find footage for people because when I was wrestling, especially when I started, the only place that you could reliably put videos up was on MySpace because YouTube had like hard restrictions on how long things could
10
be and
minutes, I
stuff like
think.
that. Now, between YouTube and social media platforms and stuff, you can upload more stuff. You can get more stuff out there, and it's easier to share. You know, if I'm a talent and I worked a match here, and this match is going to be this was a really good match, then I should have a way to be able to link that match off of my stuff. The problem is it's double-edged is that you are one in a sea of people doing the same thing. What makes you stand out? What's going to make you different? What's going to make people look for you? You know, it it took someone who was quirky and different enough like Danhausen to really weaponize that. Or, you know, at least early on Matt Cardona was arguably the first big name to use the internet for that purpose. But now, you know, people are all over the place working that. So it's like it it makes indie work more accessible, but in doing so it waters it down because there's so much available. If that makes sense.
It's kind of like being on self-published on Kindle is kind of like what it's like now.
Yeah. You know, you could write a really good book and self-publish it and nobody sees it because it's just one of the self-published books.
Yeah.
And it's got to, if it's going to turn into anything, it's got to build up enough steam to kind of hit critical mass and break through to a wider awareness.
Yeah.
You know, good luck.
And like
I'm pulling for you, but good luck.
And like as an indie too, you can like I think a lot of the problems the indies have is like they should focus more on like their area. Like there are indies that are super successful that you never hear anything about because they just focus on running in their town. They have their crowd they draw every time. They do really well. They bring in some outside guys like Impact Pro Wrestling in Iowa is really successful. They have a lot of fans, but they don't really put a lot of stuff out there. And they focus on the area of Iowa they run. They're super successful. They bring in some outside guys. They've had some big talent there, but they're focused. They care about their local audience mostly.
Pro Wrestling Revolver typically operates in Northern Ohio, and they've got a lot for an indie. They've got a lot of momentum and followers.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Bobby Fulton, I think his does pretty well. They only run twice a year, but yeah. So I think a lot of these promoters like care, I think, too much about the internet, and then like, Evolve was really bad about this when Sapolsky was running it. Like, he just does not understand how to like grow a promotion. So like people would be like, I didn't know they were running in my town because they didn't advertise.
Yeah. And it's hard because going out and papering a town is one thing. How many times do people just walk right by that stuff?
Yeah.
People ignore signs on doors at shops that say please use other door. The likelihood that they're going to, and I know what else are you going to do? Like in the old days, what else would you do? You'd get out there and you'd hang your signs everywhere that would let you hang signs and that sort of stuff. But what are you going to, what else are you going to do?
I will say,
Well, okay, now you put it on the internet, but
yeah,
you're a voice in a chorus now.
I will say if for an indie promotion that isn't going to watch this, what I would recommend doing is don't just do the black and white like Xerox copies that a lot of promotions put up in gaming shops and stuff. I will tell you, do a color poster that's decent and put them up in stores and make wrestling really big, more than the promotion name. Like if you put a color thing out and wrestling's real big on it, I'll see it every time. It'll catch my vision every time. Mm-hmm. And the promotions that have done that around me are the ones that are successful.
Yeah.
But I think that's a whole can of worms, is like the advertising thing, and I don't know quite. I actually think some of those people should do mailers. Like the Chinese restaurant in your area that mails their menu to everyone. Like I think some promotions should try that. And I think the internet is good for certain things, but I don't think the internet is really hard to advertise to, and I think social media is not a great way to advertise either.
It's easy. That doesn't mean it's good. If you share it on Facebook and you're trying to push it out to, your friends that would see it, if it doesn't have a lot of engagement already, then there's nothing saying that Facebook is going to have your friends see it.
I think honestly the best advertisement a lot of these companies don't do, because it costs money, is getting your footage out there is a great advertisement.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with you.
But I mean, that costs money, and you have to shoot it well, and that requires audio equipment and stuff. But I know the promotions that have caught me have either been on TV or they've had easy to access footage.
Yeah. That's the thing, is you get a taste of what you might see at a show. And now folks aren't walking into an unknown. Now they kind of know they're going to see some quality stuff there.
Yeah, because I know for me personally, I don't know how like you guys do, but if I hear about a promotion that's local, the first thing I do is I go see if they do have clips on YouTube or something. Yeah. And if they don't, I tend to forget about it. That might be a distinctly me thing, though.
I mean, it would depend upon like my accessibility to them. Like the promotion I just mentioned, like for Virginia Championship Wrestling, like they only run like locally, like a couple times a year. So it's like, I've gone to see them a couple times when they're local, versus like 3-4 hours down the road. But I just said, like, I forgot the show they were running locally, like, actually was happening, so I didn't make it an effort to go see them. So there's something to that. There's something that's like, are you promoting like that you're going to be here where I'm going to be, or are you kind of just like that's fallen to the wayside, So, and excuse me, I think there was something to be said. It's like actual local, and I know it's expensive, but it's like promotion. Versus just like sending out, oh, like if you follow us on social media, it's like, what if I don't follow you? Like I would have no idea.
Yeah. You know what I would do if I was running a show? I would, because they're cheap to print. I would get printed cards for every show and hand it out and say with a QR code and say, here's a QR code. This will put it on your Google Calendar for when our next show is.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Or and here's like this also has like our social media stuff on. Like I would just do stuff like that. Like, hey, here's this QR code. It'll put on your calendar. And here this other code right here is our social media.
That's a great idea because, especially like having two small kids, me and my wife, it's like we constantly are updating our calendar, like putting stuff in the calendar, because it's like if it's not in the calendar, like I will probably forget that it's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that happen. It slips your mind. And so it's like let me look at my calendar. It's like for the week. Oh my God, this is happening this week. It's already this time. It's like yes, but since it's in the calendar, I get it. So if you do something as simple as that, it's like again this QR code will add to your calendar like when we're like where our next events are going to be and where they're going to be located. That'd be so helpful because if that was something like I just said, this show that was local, I would have been like maybe I'd have been like, man, this show that is never in my area, like twice a
Yeah.
year, it's in my area versus like in Virginia, but 3 hours away. Now it's going to be like a 20-30 minute drive away, like only because of traffic. It's that long. Maybe I would have actually made an effort, but I forgot because I didn't put it in my calendar, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea,
Not enough
actually.
notification. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some ways you could be more proactive about it, or being like, "Hey, sign up for our email thing at the show, and we'll give you like a voucher for like so much off your next ticket, or offer
Yeah.
season tickets." There's
Yeah.
a way.
Well, another thing is what you talked about, Brad, and I know that Kentucky's doing. Uh, run shows on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes, 100%.
Like again, and I know that I have a different experience than everyone else, or many people. So, but I have small kids, so it's like this isn't convenient. I understand that a lot of companies will do this. It's like, let's run Saturday night, like 7 to 10. It's like that works great for many people. But if you're running a show, let's say like 2 to 4 on a Sunday afternoon, it's like that works great for me. Like I could go to the show.
Yeah, you can do all your shit afterwards. Like if you shop that day, you
Yeah,
can do everything around it. You go to
yeah, I
church,
could,
you
and then
can
I could
be
leave.
out in time for it.
Yeah, or I could go to the grocery store that early that morning,
Do your laundry
then go to the
afterwards.
show. Yeah,
Yeah.
go to the show that afternoon, and then I'm
You're
back from
not
the
getting
show
home
by like
late.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm back from the show at like 4:30,
the
and
Chikara
then it's
show I
like
did.
bathe my kids, make dinner,
Yeah, the Chikara
like
show I went to ran from like 3 to 5:30 on a Sunday.
yeah,
It was awesome.
yeah. That's actually a brilliant idea because it encourages people to go and encourages like like my kids are small, but in theory, like they're older. It's like I can take them to the show, and especially if it's if they keep it as you've talked about this, Brad, before. It's like keep it short.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
keep it 2.5 hours, and that's
Because when
with
you
like an
do
intermission.
because when you do 4 hours like Ring of Honor was like that. Like there were times I wanted to go, but I'm like, man, do I really want to sit there for 4.5 hours and do all the driving and get home at like 1:30 in the morning because it ran long? Like that, I understand why the 4 hour show, the 4 or 5 hour show became like a thing, but I think
Yeah,
you chase people away with that too.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, I just went and looked it up. KWF opens the doors at 3. Show starts at 4. They typically run 2.5 hours, and ringside is 15 general admission.
That's pretty
Dude,
good. Yeah.
yeah. And it part of my job is watching the matches to make sure that somebody doesn't just utterly suck. Because JR's like, look, if someone's just stinking it up out there, I'm not gonna give them a roster spot I could have on somebody else. I haven't had to, sink anybody, but
They've
hey,
just they've just been not stinky enough to pass the shad test.
no. The worst that I've seen is it was fine. There was nothing offensive about it. There was nothing that stood out, but it was fine. And I'm okay with fine.
Yeah, you need fine on the show. Not everyone can be like a master craftsman.
Yeah. That's yeah, you honest to God, I think you need somebody on you need some people on your roster who are just basic meat and potatoes types. For God's sake, Steve Austin's entire run as Stone Cold at the top, his match was punches, Thez presses, and stunners.
Yeah.
So
I think those are some of the problems. Though, like I think the shows are too long because you're not gonna take your kid to like a 4.5 hour show either.
no,
Like,
you're gonna be heck. I'm gonna get bored at that point. I don't want to think about how my kids are.
I think like a 2.5 hour show with an intermission is you can get a kid through that because
Yeah.
you get them through like that first hour 20. They get a run around for 10 or 15 minutes, and they just have to get through the next like 45 minutes to an hour. Like I think that
Yeah.
works well for kids.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because like I don't have kids, but people like when they were justifying things like the length of the Little Mermaid, they're like, "Oh, my kid can get through that."
Oh yeah.
oh, like yeah, I'm sure your kid can, but most people's kids like you're asking a lot for 2.5 hours straight of like movie.
Yeah, let's not.
I'm gonna be. Look, I'm an adult. I'm an adult man. A 2.5 hour movie. It's like I'm kind of like, does this need to be 2.5 hours?
Yeah, I know. Me too.
There's very few movies that I have watched where I've been like, okay, there was nothing that you could really cut out of this.
Yeah, no,
Not
There's
many of them.
there. It's much like wrestling matches. Like there's some movies that are 2.5 hours, and it's like the pacing is so good in this. Like I didn't even know.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of modern stuff. It's like it's 2 hours, 2+ hours, and it's like this didn't need to be. Like it could have been tightened up to like an hour 45. Like it did not need to be 2 hours 15 minutes, 2 hours 30. You could have cut out like 30 to 45 minutes, and it would not have hurt the film.
yeah.
like
So
especially with
yeah,
like
if
a
you're having little,
comedy and it's 2 hours. It's like, why is this 2 hours?
oh yeah, oh back in the day, it's like comedies like 90 minutes, 80
Well,
minutes.
Shad's talked
It's
about
like
that before. That with Monty Python Search for the Holy Grail, they found that there was a certain point where the audience would stop laughing, like runtime wise.
Yeah, that's why there's an intermission in the middle of that movie. There's an intermission in the middle of Quest for the Holy Grail, and you're like, why is there an intermission there? It's because it gives you a break. Because you can only laugh for so long before, frankly, you just get tired. Or you get desensitized to it. So you need intermissions, you need breaks, you need something that shifts your focus. Great, go for it.
We need to do a Monty Python month, one of these, and do that. Meaning of Life and what's Life of Brian?
Life of Brian.
Yeah, Life of Brian's underrated.
Are you sure? You sure it's not too much? It's wafer thin.
waffle thin.
Wafer thin.
I say that,
God.
so I laugh every time someone says that. I get upset when people don't know what I'm talking about.
Meaning of life is well.
I love
We'll get into that later.
I love the the scene where the Catholic family, they're just lining up and the guy's like, "No, we're allowed to use condoms because we're Protestants."
Yeah. I think we might have hit the wall, guys.
Yeah, it's been a long couple days for me, but yeah, I think that is an interesting conversation, and I think there's not like I think the economy factors in, but I think there's a lot of things you could do to make people want to spend money on you. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it, is like the economy is a factor, but like people will spend there's scary things going on in the Shad house right now, with shadows, but like I think the indies could be doing a better job of saying like, we know you only have so much to spend, but we're gonna But we're gonna like try to make ourselves like something you want to spend money on. I think is where kind of the disconnect is. But I think that is it for this week. Next week, there might not be a show. There might, just depends on what we do. It'll just be Shad and me if it is. If it is a show,
it's difficult where it's Thanksgiving week and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah.
So
we might just not do a show and take the week off because it's been a little bit for us.
And it's not that we don't care or anything. It's just every now and then you need an intermission.
Yeah, if something interesting happens, it might be a Shad and I show. But
yeah, we will see.
Yep. But thank you for joining us as always. This has been Matt, Shad, and Brad. We've been in 3 Corners and you've been in the 4th. And we will catch you next time.